Okay, if you're a parent, you know this feeling all too well. You drop off your perfectly healthy, happy kid at daycare, and then, boom, a few days later, you get that call. It's another runny nose, another fever. It's a cycle that can feel absolutely endless, right? Well, today, we're going to dive into why group care settings can feel like a hotspot for germs, but more importantly, we're going to look at what the science says are the best ways to actually prevent all that illness. I mean, it's a question pretty much every parent has asked themselves, and you're not wrong for wondering. It is not your imagination. Both science and, real-world experience tell us that kids in group care settings just get sick more often, especially with all those respiratory and tummy bugs. But here's the thing. The story doesn't end there. It's actually way more nuanced and a lot more hopeful than you might think. So let's just look at both sides of this coin. The tough part, what we're calling the bad news, is, yeah, the illnesses are more frequent, and sometimes they seem to drag on forever. And what's just a little sniffle for your kid can sometimes knock the adults at home flat on their back. But, and this is a big but, the good news is really significant. The huge majority of these infections, we're talking about 90%, are actually mild. And what's really fascinating is that this early exposure is like a boot camp for their immune systems. They are building up powerful defenses, which means they actually get sick less once they hit kindergarten compared to kids who stayed home. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so if we're going to fight back, we first have to understand the battlefield. The whole game of preventing illness is about disrupting how germs travel from one person to another. So think of it like a strategy game. First things first, we have to know our enemy's main moves. So here are the 5 main ways germs get around. First up, the respiratory route. You know this one. It's that invisible cloud of germs from a cough or a sneeze. Then we've got the fecal-oral route. Yeah, it sounds gross, but it's exactly why hand washing after diaper changes and before meals is so critical. Next is direct contact, which is skin-to-skin stuff for things like lice or pink eye. The bodily fluid route covers things like saliva, urine, and blood. And finally, you've got the vector-borne route, which is less common in daycare but still out there. That's when diseases are spread by insects like ticks and mosquitoes. All right, let's talk about our first and honestly, our most powerful layer of defense. If germs are the enemy, then immunizations are our high-tech, super effective shield. There's a reason they're considered the single greatest public health achievement of the 20th century. Just let this number sink in for a second. Most childhood vaccines give a child immunity about 90 to 100% of the time. That is just an incredible rate of success. I mean, to put that in perspective, almost no other medical intervention on the planet comes close to that level of preventative power. It's amazing. So, how is that even possible? Well, the science behind it is actually brilliantly simple. A vaccine introduces a tiny, harmless piece of a germ, or maybe a version of it that's been killed or weakened, to your immune system. It's basically a training exercise. Your body learns how to build the right weapons, the antibodies, to defeat that specific germ. So if the real, dangerous version ever shows up, your body is already prepped and ready to win the fight immediately, without you ever having to get sick in the first place. And this table right here illustrates perfectly what we're preventing. We're not just talking about minor colds. Measles can cause brain swelling. Pertussis, which you might know as whooping cough, can be fatal, especially for infants. Polio can cause paralysis. Hepatitis B can lead to liver cancer down the line. These are truly devastating diseases that vaccines have made incredibly rare in our communities. Now, of course, it's totally natural for parents to have questions about the number of shots or potential side effects or things they've heard. So let's just tackle the actual evidence for these common concerns head on. First, the idea of too many shots too soon. Well, the science shows that an infant's immune system is incredible. It fights off thousands of different germs every single day. The challenges in vaccines are just a tiny fraction of that. What about the rumored link to autism? That came from a single study way back in 1998 that was later proven to be completely fraudulent, based on fake data, and was fully retracted by the journal that published it. And what about side effects? Well, serious ones are extremely rare. The most common things are really minor, like a sore arm or a low-grade fever that's gone in a day or two. Okay, let's move on to our second layer of defense. Think of this as our daily armor. It builds right on top of that high-tech shield of vaccines. These are the simple but incredibly powerful habits that can stop germs in their tracks every single day. And seriously, do not underestimate the power of simple. Remember that respiratory route we talked about? Just proper hand washing alone can cut down on colds and other illnesses spread that way by up to 21%. And it slashes diarrheal illnesses by 31%. That is a massive impact from something as basic as soap and water. But the key part is doing it right, and here are the steps. First, you wet your hands with clean running water. Then you lather up with soap, and you gotta make sure you get the backs of your hands, between your fingers, and under your nails. Now this next part is key. You have to scrub for a full 20 seconds. A great trick for kids is to have them sing happy birthday all the way through twice. After that, just rinse well and dry with a clean towel. It seems so simple, but teaching this exact process is one of the most effective health habits we can possibly build. Now for caregivers, there's another tool in the Daily Armor Kit, gloves. And the rule here is super simple. If you think you might come into contact with blood, any other bodily fluids, rashes, or open cuts, you wear gloves. It's a standard precaution that protects both you and the child. Easy. But just using gloves isn't enough. You have to take them off the right way. It's just as important, and there's a specific technique that's crucial for avoiding contamination. You peel the first one off by grabbing the palm, so you're not touching your skin with the dirty part. Then you hold that balled up glove in your other, still gloved hand. Then you slide your now clean fingers under the cuff of the other glove and peel it off over the first one. This traps all the germs in a neat little bundle. Then you just toss it and immediately go wash your hands. Now, here's something we all get mixed up all the time. Cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting. They are not the same thing. Cleaning is just removing the visible dirt and some germs with soap and water. Sanitizing lowers the number of germs to a level that's considered safe, but disinfecting, that's the heavy hitter. It actually destroys or inactivates the infectious germs on a surface, which is absolutely critical for places like diaper changing tables and toilets. All right, so we've covered our internal shield, vaccines, and our daily habits, our armor. Our third and final layer of defense is the environment itself, the actual physical space where our kids are playing and learning. We've got to make sure that fortress is secure. You might be pretty surprised to learn that the air inside can be 2 to 5 times more polluted than the air outside. It's wild. And the sources are literally all around us. It could be fumes from building materials or new furniture, chemicals from cleaning products, even stuff from gas stoves. And of course, pollen and pollution that just gets sucked in from outside. This is why good ventilation is so important. And beyond the air, we have to be on the lookout for other potential hazards. Things like mold, which can trigger asthma and allergies, pests, which can carry diseases, certain chemicals that can be found in some plastics. And of course, making absolutely sure that drinking water is safe and free from contaminants like lead. A healthy space is a safe space. This quote really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? It just underscores why being vigilant about the products, the materials, and the overall environment in our homes and our childcare centers is more important now than it has ever been. Ultimately, it all just boils down to this. A child's health is directly linked to the health of their environment. Securing that fortress through clean air, safe water, and non-toxic materials is a huge, fundamental part of preventing illness. So as we wrap this up, let's just think about this for a second. We have these powerful, overlapping layers of defense, right? The immunizations, the hygiene habits, and a healthy environment. And when you see it all laid out like this, it becomes pretty clear. Maybe the biggest threat isn't any single virus or bacteria, but just a gap in our own understanding of how to use these tools effectively. Being informed, that's the ultimate preventative medicine.